Hi YouTube. Sorry I haven't done a video in a while. It's been very difficult to upload videos recently. I want to talk today about this man, Maximilien Robespierre, one of my heroes, who was leader of France during the Reign of Terror, 1793 to 1794. He's gone down in history as a villain, as a very bloodthirsty leader, but as part of my socialist myths series, I think I should debunk some of the myths about this leader of the French Revolution. Now, firstly, before the revolution, he was actually a lawyer who campaigned against the death penalty. And secondly, his political party, the Jacobins, who've gone down in history as extremists, they didn't start the war in Europe. The so-called moderate Girondins did. Third myth: this idea of the guillotine as a symbol of oppression is absurd. People forget how criminals were executed before the revolution. The guillotine was introduced in 1792, named after a doctor who recommended it because of its humane way of killing people. Before the revolution, nobles were executed with a simple blow of the axe. That's fine. That was their privilege. But for everyone else, they'd be broken on the wheel 10 times worse, 10 times more painful. They're basically hacked to pieces while being tied to a giant wheel. That's what ordinary people have. The idea of the guillotine was that everyone should be decapitated. And remember, 1794, almost every country had the death penalty. And most of the executions took place in two areas: the capital, Paris, and the Vendée region, which was an area of a royalist uprising. This all happened during a time of civil war and war with Spain, Britain, Prussia, Russia, and Austria. The odds were against them. And on a fourth myth, this idea that the Reign of Terror was a bloodthirsty event in Paris in French history is nonsense. The St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in 1572, that was when French Protestants were massacred by Catholics, and also the crushing of the Paris Commune in 1871. There were far more casualties both those times than in the Reign of Terror. But revolutions are always maligned by history writers. People always fixate on their ferocity, and of course revolutionaries are ferocious, but there are reasons for it. Now, a fifth myth about the French Revolution is this idea that it was incredibly radical. Well, not by any stretch of the imagination. Only 10% of French land changed hands during the French Revolution, and this was half of that was church land, and the other half was the land of émigré nobles and traitors. The nobility themselves, they weren't expropriated like they were in later revolutions, so the French Revolution was pretty tame. And out of the land that did change hands, only half of that ended up in peasant hands, the other half was bought up by capitalists. So we're really, and even Robespierre, even the most extreme Jacobins, would not be classed as communists today. So people exaggerate things. There's a lot of symbols that both sides use, but that's about it. Right, seeing as it's working today for a change, I think I will do another video. See you later, YouTube. Bye.